You ever get that gut feeling something's not right? Like a quiet hum underneath your everyday life that you can't quite explain? That was me, 3 months into living at my late grandfather's ranch on the edge of Caldera Ridge. I thought I was just settling into a slower, simpler life, swapping out debug codes for fence posts, learning the difference between an auger and a post hole digger. Turns out, I'd moved straight into the middle of a storm that had been brewing for over a decade. And the eye of that storm? A barn built in 1874, and a woman named Beverly Langston. Now, Beverly, she wasn't just the HOA president, she was the self-appointed czar of Caldera Ridge. Blonde Bob, white Lexus, always carried a folder and a frown. The kind of woman who knew the exact shade of beige your shutters were allowed to be and wasn't afraid to threaten fines over dandelions. She'd left a welcome note when I moved in. Handwritten, polite, passive-aggressive as hell. So when Sheriff Rick Morales called me one Tuesday morning and said, "Eli, we got a formal complaint about suspicious activity in your barn. Inspections tomorrow." I wasn't surprised by the call. What surprised me was the timing. That old barn hadn't been touched since Grandpa Clayton passed 6 months ago. Hell, I hadn't even opened it. I was too busy figuring out well pumps and tax records. But Beverly? She claimed she'd seen flashlights in there at night, heard strange noises, said it could be a meth lab or worse. That would have almost been funny, if not for the look in her eyes when she showed up on my porch 30 minutes later. Normally, Beverly walks like the pavement owes her rent, but that morning, she looked nervous, eyes darting to the barn like it might explode. "Mr. Rourke," she said, clutching her manila folder like a Bible, "as HOA president, I'm obligated to report safety concerns. That barn," she paused, swallowing, "may pose a serious risk to the community." I leaned on the doorframe, trying to keep my tone casual. "Funny, it's just wood and nails far as I know. What exactly are you so concerned about?" "I've seen movement, flashlights. It could be squatters, drug activity." She trailed off. But here's the thing. She knew which side the barn door was on. She knew the shingles were loose on the east roof. She even knew the side entrance was usually unlocked. Now, how the hell would she know that? Still, I agreed to the inspection, not because I was scared, but because I wanted to know what had the queen of the HOA losing sleep. That night, just before midnight, I saw movement outside my window. I killed the porch light and peeked through the curtain. There she was, Beverly Langston, creeping around the barn like a cat burglar in Gucci flats. She was checking hinges, flashing her phone light into cracks, even tugging on the side door handle. That's when I knew she wasn't scared of what might be in the barn. She was scared of what might come out. Next morning, 9 a.m. sharp, Sheriff Morales pulled up in his cruiser, rookie deputy in tow. Beverly arrived right on cue, face powdered, folder in hand, but pale and twitchy like a raccoon in daylight. "Morning, Eli," Morales said, shaking my hand. "Not gonna lie, this complaint's unusual. Miss Langston gave us a pretty detailed description for someone who claims she's never stepped foot on your property." I just nodded, eyes on Beverly. She wouldn't meet mine. As we walked toward the barn, Beverly led the way, stepping around gravel patches and ducking under the low-hanging branch without so much as a glancing up. Too familiar, too fluid. Deputy Chase noticed too, jotted it down on his notepad. "Main door's here," she announced, pointing like a tour guide. "Side door is usually unlocked." Morales raised an eyebrow. "Usually?" She blinked. "I mean, I assumed." He didn't say anything, just pulled out a crowbar. Now, the padlock on that old barn wasn't anything special, just old, rusted, but solid. Took a couple yanks, then gave way with a groan that echoed across the field. When those doors creaked open, The scent of old hay, grease, and memories hit me like a punch. Dust swirled in the light like ghosts. Most of it looked like you'd expect. Tools, rope, a couple antique tractors that hadn't run since Clinton was in office. But in the back corner, Deputy Chase's flashlight caught something strange, a big metal safe half hidden under a tarp. Beverly jumped. "Oh, that's probably just financial records, receipts, farm stuff." Sheriff Morales didn't bite. He walked over, crouched, and looked around. That's when we noticed the floorboards near the safe. Too clean, too new. Like someone had tried to make them look old, but missed a spot. "Deputy," Morales said, "give those a tap." Sure enough, hollow, springy. Deputy Chase got down, found the seams, ran his fingers along the edges, and then looked up. Hinges. Morales knelt beside him, pried up the false floor, and revealed a cellar entrance none of us had known about, not even me. Just a ladder dropping into darkness. Now Beverly, she turned sheet white. Her voice cracked. "I really think we should stop. This might be hazardous. Chemicals, mold, unstable beams." But Morales was already climbing down. The cellar was bigger than expected. Cool air hit us, and the beam of the flashlight revealed crates, old beams, and dead center, a small wooden table with a leather-bound journal and a metal box. The journal had my grandfather's handwriting. I recognized it instantly. Birthday cards, Christmas notes, his script never changed. He flipped it open. The first line, March 15th, 2008. I witnessed something that changed everything I thought I knew about my neighbors. He read the next few lines out loud. It wasn't a farming log. It was surveillance. Grandpa Clayton had spent years documenting what he believed was a human trafficking network moving people through our county, and someone he only referred to as BL was involved in nearly every entry. License plates, vehicle descriptions, dates, all handwritten with care. He even made a code to protect the identities of victims and potential witnesses. Beverly tried to grab the journal. "That's private. His mind was going in his later years. You can't take it seriously." But Deputy Chase was already opening the metal box. Inside were photos, dozens, clear as day. Vans, cargo, men with clipboards, women huddled in the back of trucks. And then, her. A photo from 2010. Beverly Langston, 15 years younger, standing next to a white panel van holding a clipboard and envelope of cash. Her face wasn't scared or confused. She looked in control. When they held it up, Beverly didn't deny it. "That could be fake. Photoshop, taken out of context," she stammered. "Funny, it matches the plate numbers in the journal and the permits in this envelope you just tried to hide under your coat." Then, like she'd been waiting her whole life for this cue, a voice called from the barn door. "Sheriff Morales, I believe I have more information." "Mrs. Delilah. Mrs. Delilah Quinn, my neighbor from 2 houses over. She was in her 70s, always wore gardening gloves, and never said more than 'morning' since I moved in. But right then, she walked in like a prosecutor in pearls." She handed Morales another envelope, official copies of vehicle registrations, forged permits, emails. She'd worked with Beverly at the county transportation office years ago, and she'd been collecting evidence ever since. You see, she said, Grandpa and we were friends. He noticed the vans, I noticed the paperwork. Together we started connecting dots. When I retired, I made copies of everything." That was the nail in the coffin. The final permit in Delilah's envelope had Beverly's signature authorizing emergency humanitarian transport for vehicles that didn't belong to any registered nonprofit. The recipient was a fake LLC, and the address, an abandoned warehouse in Arizona. When Morales's phone rang, the room went silent. It was Agent Teresa Han from the FBI. She'd been leading a quiet investigation into HOA fraud and suspected trafficking routes across the region. And now, thanks to Beverly's dumb decision to call in a complaint, they had everything they needed. Within an hour, FBI vans rolled up, evidence bags, laptops, forensics teams. It turned into a full-blown federal scene. Beverly sat slumped on a hay bale, cuffed, shaking, whispering excuses to no one in particular. But the real gut punch came when Agent Han pulled me aside and showed me one last photo. The same van, doors open, full of frightened people, eyes wide, knees pulled to their chests. In the foreground, clipboard in hand, directing it all, was Beverly.